Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Terry Fletcher, which means this is the WTF podcast for Week 12. Yes, we are already at Week 12 of the season. It's getting crunch time. We now go into what they call December football. We've heard Tomlin say it. But first, we need to look at November football, which our last two games, ugly doesn't even begin to describe it. And when you come out with a win after an ugly game like we had in Jacksonville, everyone kind of forgives you and says, oh my gosh, Ben had the game of his life to come back from that absolute ugly third quarter, that fourth quarter finish. And it was right. It was epic. I still couldn't believe we won that game. And then we see the Broncos. And I had a feeling, and I hate the phrase trap game, but I don't know. I had this feeling in the pit of my stomach that it wasn't going to be good. Not because Case Keenum is anything impressive, or, I thought that going to Denver with the little grumblings of potential illnesses people might have had being in the altitude could be an issue. I just felt that going from the Florida weather, and I'm in California, so the weather here is very similar, to then going to 30-degree weather, yes, high altitude and all of that, but I just felt that it was such a huge adrenaline rush for them, and sometimes when you're coming off of that and then playing a game that you are expected to win with kind of a substandard quarterback, but remember, they have Von Miller. They've got some decent defense there. And we've had some ugly situations, and this game is no different. And I absolutely need to rant a little bit. So my WTFs here, first I'm going to start with the good, because there were a couple of good things, but this was a fluky game. So for any of you call you guys yinsers out there, anybody who was just so pissed after the game, and I was one of them, oh my gosh. My husband sat here on the couch, turned off the TV after it was done, and just almost threw the remote at me and was just so mad for the next several hours. I was like, you can always leave. It was that bad. Usually after a loss, he gets a little annoyed and kind of upset, but he was furious. And I was just kind of disappointed. We should have won that game. So what I want to show first is, and just really talk about first, when you talk about WTF, first of all, what were they thinking with Chris Boswell throwing a pass to Alejandro Villanueva? So it was cool. I liked seeing it. I thought it was a very cool thing to do. And the one thing you should know about that, and I know everybody was like, wait, did Big Al report as, an eligible receiver? Yes. With 11 men on the field, there has to be at least 6 who are eligible and 5 who would be ineligible to catch something. The kicker and actually the holder are eligible as well. And so the other eligible player would have been Cam Hayward, I would assume. But basically, it was a setup play, and it worked. It was awesome. It was something to see. It was just at the end of, I think it was a quarter, at the end of the time period for what we were looking at, and it was just a perfect lead-in from what we were dealing with and just some of the issues from the turnovers. But it was funny because a follow-up to that with Al on an interview, somebody says, you played tight end and wide receiver at West Point. Don't you want to be, as a tight end here? And he just gave him a look and a comment saying, people, I block for Ben. I make sure that Ben is good, that he is, what we need to get down the field. You can't expect him to be a tight end. Remember, when he was a tight end at West Point, he was 185 pounds at 6'9". He's now 300 pounds, give or take, at 6'9", and he protects Ben. And I would really like to see him continue to protect Ben. And people need to stop saying that. For trick plays, he's good, but he just wanted to get rid of the ball. There was no, figure out a celebration or anything. He handed the ball to the official and then went over with his people to hug them and celebrate that way. So I just thought that was a great WTF moment, going, oh my gosh, did they actually do that? And it was great. The other one would have to be JuJu's second 97-yard touchdown pass. The first one, if you don't remember, was from last year with the Lions. Ben was just coming right out of our own end zone, and JuJu just went up the middle and absolutely just snaked with a great, stiff arm for a guy. And he did the same thing here, just kept weaving and bobbing and got to a touchdown. So, and Ben was actually falling on his butt at the same time with the pass rush. So just for Ben to even get off that pass was amazing. And I have to shout out to AB, because some people don't realize what a great job he's doing blocking. And that's a teammate. There's been a lot of wide receivers and different, running backs who they think that their job is really one-dimensional. And you'll see out there, and you just sit there and look at them and go, you know what? Not anymore, not nowadays. Nowadays, you have to be a running back who can catch, who can block, and who can do almost everything. You're not just a running back. I mean, look at what they're doing in Chicago, and now Cohen's there, because you lose your job if you don't know what you're doing out there. And, they talk about the patience of, former running back Le'Veon Bell. See what I did there? He might come back to the league, but right now he's a former running back. He's not in the league. But you look at how they're trying to have James Conner in the passing game. You see all these different, running backs that are really starting to be that. But for AB, you have to give him a shout out as far as look at these blocks he's making to allow somebody else to catch and score. And when people try to shout him out and say that, or call him out and say that he's not a good teammate, or he's wondering why his numbers are down, I don't want to hear it, because he's doing a great job. But now we have to get into the WTF of the game. And here's where I just can't even. And that whenever I get upset, that's my word of the day. I can't even. I just don't understand. First of all, I know everybody is very excited about James Conner, and they're all in, and so am I, honestly. I really, most out of a necessity, but I also see how tough this kid is. I love his story, but he's had a couple of games where, it highlights what's going on for him, as far as, yes, he has these great games, these high, running games, rushing yards and everything. But when you go back to Cleveland with his fumble, and that resulted in a tie. And now last week with him not keeping his eye on the ball, and so, he dropped a sheer touchdown, an absolute sure touchdown walking into the end zone. And then this week, he got hit. He did not get hit hard. That fumble at the Denver 23 at the end of the third quarter set the tone for me as the loss. So James has been sloppy in the last couple of games. And we start to remember what he's done in games past. And he just needs, I'm not saying he cost us a season, but he needs to step it up and meet the expectations that have been set for him, in my opinion. And I just feel that I would be in his face, be like, look, James, we love you. You're the starter, which means that comes with a ton of responsibility. And you need to really take care of the football. And he usually does, so... But I'm tired of having to always feel like everybody's defending him. Stop defending him. He needs to step it up, and hopefully we'll see that in our next game. And then when we get into in the middle of that fumble, and then something I'll talk about with our Xavier Grimble, but AB was targeted, and then he was grabbed in the middle, somewhere around in the third quarter, and that wasn't called. And I don't know if you saw this, but they showed it on the mic'd up and then part of on the NFL film later. Ben was in the face of the umpire on that one, because they just absolutely didn't call it. And he was not only grabbed, he was turned around. And that is a pass interference. That's not just illegal contact. And so that really just bothers me when refs can get in there and make game-changing non-calls like that. But do they ever really care? No. So it really bothers me. And then when we get into Grimble. Now, he was left wide open to the left of Ben. It was 3rd and 1 on the Broncos' 24-yard line. He ran to the end zone, and he was blasted by the safety, Will Parks. He did not see it coming. All he had to do was cut to the right. And reach over. He would have had a sure touchdown. Nobody was there. But he fumbles out of bounds, and that's a touchback for Denver when you do that. If he cuts back, he absolutely has a touchdown. But he wanted to run through that guy. He even said that at his locker in the later, when they do the by the locker interviews. But you know what? WTF, take the damn points. I don't like it when people players try to be these heroes. It actually reminds me of what Pat Mahomes is doing in the Chiefs right now. I love the kid, great kid, but he is, every single time he throws the ball, he is throwing for a touchdown. And yes, it's working for the Chiefs at some point, but they're losing a couple games here and there because he's not taking what they give you. Take what they give you, and he could even make his reads by that. Just jump off once in a while. You don't always have to go for the 75-yard pass. And I mean, that comes with age. He'll figure it out. But when I look at a couple of these plays and I see, what Grimble did there and just trying to do too much, which gets us to what Ben did at the end. And I'm sorry, but we felt it. We knew it. We'd only ran the ball for 52 yards in this game. And whenever we run the ball, less than 60 yards, we lose. Those are our losses. And so I don't understand in the last 67 seconds of that game why we felt the need to pass the ball. Now, I understand that in the red zone right now, the Steelers lead with 77% success rate. And Ben does know what he's doing down there for the most part. But if you look at what happened and you look at where they were set up and you just look at what they give you. And I love Ben, but I felt this coming. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't pass. I was even talking to somebody through text who I'm on their fantasy league. And I was like, he's like, you got this. You're going to win this game, or you're at least going to tie it up for then overtime. I said, unless he passes it here and it's intercepted. He goes, he won't do that. They're just going to run it 4 times. I'm like, you want to bet? Sure enough, 3rd and goal from the Denver 2. After already trying to pass it, Ben passes it. Pouncey blocks the player into the interception. And who has Ben throwing to? A nose tackle? The nose tackle is who he blocked the player. And he basically gets, the interception. And it's just like, I don't know who Ben was throwing to. Who was he throwing to? I don't know. And so it just really bothered me. That was a WTF moment where I felt it. I knew it was coming. And so when you know those are coming, it's really hard to deal with because you're like, yep, there it is. I knew it was going to be a really bad decision. And there's games where you can't believe you won because of things that you do wrong, but you come back from it. This was a fluky game. The Grimble, thing for that, where we were just easy touchdown. The Connor, where we're right there in their side of the ball field. Another fumble where he didn't even get hit that hard. And then that pass, that reminds me of that Patriots Seahawks game where why didn't they use Marshawn Lynch? Instead they pass it and it's intercepted. That was the Super Bowl. You can't make these decisions when these games are so crucial. Who's on our schedule coming up. We've got San Diego. We've got who are just having a phenomenal season. Moving into another WTF around the league. Look at Phillip Rivers. In his game this week, he was 25 for 25. That guy is on fire. On fire. You can't have a better passing rating than that. He was perfect. Phillip Rivers, perfect? That is absolutely bananas. And we're going to be playing them. And then we've got, who else? The possible potential MVP of the league this year? Drew Brees. We're going to play the Saints. And we're their little brother, but our big brother, the Patriots. We got a tough schedule coming up. We should have won in Denver. And for those of you saying, oh, Ben plays like crap on the road, you need to bite your tongue. We're 15-1-1 in our last 17 games. Yes, now we're 15-2-1. But all I'm saying is that it's not about being on the road. It's about situational football. Get it together or these kinds of things are going to happen. And so I did talk a little bit about around the league with Phillip Rivers. What else happened out there? Well, Lamar Jackson, he seems to be the new quarterback settling in at the Ravens. I'm not too excited about that. We were kind of hoping they'd lose a little bit more. But he's 2-0 as the backup quarterback. He threw for a 74-yard touchdown, and the kid can run. He kind of, for me, has flashes of the old Kaepernick. He's a run pass option quarterback. He can throw the ball. He's actually very decent. And you wonder, looking at Joe Flacco on the side, who when he plays, he just doesn't seem to care. He got paid a ton of money after a Super Bowl. That was a fluke, by the way, in my opinion. Just if you saw it, just knowing what that didn't happen from the 49ers calls. But they didn't have any money then to go get anybody. And so they put all this money into him that he flashed around apparently. And then they're kind of stuck. So it's interesting just to see all of that and what's going on in Baltimore. But definitely WTF over there going, so I would almost be WTH. What the heck are you guys doing when it comes to your quarterback? You've got one with back injuries that's been out 2 games. And guess what? You're on a 2-game winning streak. Now what? Is it the hot hand thing? So they definitely have some issues going on over there. One of the most interesting WTFs to me, and I woke up actually seeing it, I think it was yesterday morning. It might have been this morning. I'm trying to remember. I think it was yesterday. It was last night, actually. And somebody said, well, we're not going to see Dalton. And I'm like, why would we see Dalton? Why wouldn't we see him? I didn't see anything. And then I looked at it, and somebody said, oh, he's on IR, which is injury reserve. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, because he hurt his thumb. Wait, what? He did what now? He hurt his thumb. Oh, okay. So this is Jay Cutler 2.0. I was just, if Ben hurt his thumb, what would he be doing? He'd be going in, wrap it up. I mean, you've seen him on the field with a broken nose and him coming to the sideline where they snap it back into place, realign it, little blood going on there, and then he's like, just tape it, I'm good. I mean, it just amazes me, and I'm not trying to say if it's his throwing hand that a thumb injury isn't big. Okay, yes, I am trying to say it. WTF, Andy? Really? I know your season sucks, and I know no matter how long you have Marvin Lewis, you guys are never going to win. But is this really worth IR? I mean, I'm shocked that for that reason that it's IR. But you know what? Andy Dalton's done for the season, so now they're going to come in with their backup. And then let's talk about the Jaguars. I love talking about them, especially when it means that they're getting put in their place. So as you know, they've been playing like crap, and they are now in their 7th loss of the season in a row. And they basically were playing so bad in their game that against Buffalo that there was a fight and some punches were thrown, and actually Fournette, their running back, got ejected from the game, and he's suspended now his next game. WTF, kiddo? He basically ran from one side of the field to the other, was not even part of that play, and started throwing punches. You can't do that. First of all, you don't take off your helmet till you're off the field, and you don't throw a punch. So now you not only got ejected, but you're also suspended a game, and I'm sure there's a fine coming. So, these young kids, you just sit there and he's got such a mouth on him. Just him, Jalen Ramsey, all of those guys. You need to shut up. You are having a crappy season. And what else is happening? Your quarterback got benched. So now they're going with their backup quarterback again. And, you saw it in our game. They have no passing game. They have to play like, okay, don't let that quarterback throw. Don't let him throw. Yes, our quarterback tends to throw some interceptions at times because he is that gunslinger. But Ben usually recovers from that, and he's not going to back down from touchdowns. But when you look at Bortles, he just doesn't have control. It's different from tight window interceptions to no control interceptions and not knowing really what's going on in the field. And that's what they have. So Jacksonville, I would say, is probably, let's stick a fork in it. Just like the Raiders, let's just stick a fork in both of those teams. They're pretty much done. And then we get into, look at what's happening with the Colts. I really did not think that Andrew Luck was going to recover. I did not think he was going to make it back from that shoulder. But I was wrong. He has. Not only has he made it back, I think he's going to get comeback player of the year. He has been very impressive. They're winning games, and he's just doing his thing out there. So, shout out to Andrew. I think, as far as a WTF moment, just the fact that he's just putting it all out there, and after being out for over a year, he's really coming back. So that was really impressive. And so the only thing I'm going to say to wrap up our WTF for the week, we need 10 wins. We need 10 wins to make the playoffs, and without that, we don't do it. And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, we got this, no problem. Well, didn't you think that when we looked at our schedule? Yes, so we looked at our schedule and thought, oh, we got this, no problem. And then we lose to the Broncos 24-17. Our next game, Chargers at Steelers, that helps. We like being in our home field. It's a night game, which Ben loves night games. So here in California, a night game is at 5:20. I know it's 8:20 in Pittsburgh, but Ben is phenomenal in night games. So I feel good about it. I don't feel completely great about it because of the Chargers are 8-3 right now. And yes, people still call them Los Angeles. They're still San Diego to me, but they're basically 8-3 coming to us. And then we have the Raiders, and we go to the Raiders. And remember what happens with the Raiders. They're kind of our thorn game. You know, they've scored on us before, which is definitely can be an issue. And then we have the Patriots, but they are coming to us, which I think gives us a slight edge, like maybe a popcorn bucket edge. And I'm just saying because it's going to be something to watch. But I would not say that's a game. I'm hoping we get it, but if it was like last year, Jesse caught it, I'm never going to let that go. And then we have the Saints, and they're 10-1, and we go to the Saints. That game, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't feel good about that. I'm hoping that we continue our road rage and just absolutely kill people on the road. Again, this last fluky loss, remember, we're 15-2-1 on the road. And then our last game at home is the Bengals, who are 5-6 and without their starting quarterback. And so sometimes against, these rookies or backups, we're not that great, but I think we're going to pull out that win on that one. So in my opinion, I think we win the Chargers, we win at the Raiders. Patriots, who knows? And then the Saints, I don't know if we can pull it out, and then we win the Bengals. I would like to see us win out of the next 5. I'd like to see us win at least 4. So we need 10. We're right now sitting at 7-3-1. So that would put us at 11. 3 wins would put us at 10, and that gets us into the playoffs, in my opinion. So let's go Steelers, and thanks again for listening in this week in the WTF podcast. And next week, hopefully, we'll be telling you that we're coming from a win. So everybody, make it a great week, a great day. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon. Be good, be safe.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.